Hey guys, how's it going? It's the Anime Over Analyst here, and today I wanted to just give my thoughts about that last episode of Black Clover. So, yeah, I watched it. I binged like the last 10 episodes yesterday, and I just couldn't stop like taking screenshots and posting them on Twitter. It was the animation with Dante versus Yami and Asta was just so fantastic. And I heard that fans helped out in making that episode, and that just baffles me. I really think that's so super cool how a studio includes its fans in its project. Like, I think that's a brilliant idea, and even an idea that would, you know, I would hesitate to call cheap labor, but in a way, I guess it could be. If you have fans who are super dedicated to working on it, who knows? Maybe they will work on it just to have the experience of working on it. I don't know. Regardless, the animation of that fight was fantastic and so well done. Mostly, my favorite part was when Yami threw his katana over to Asta in that last second, and Asta just he did the final swipe against Dante. That was just so cool. I was so hyped. So yeah, having read the manga, I was really, really hoping for a really good animation because I loved the story. I really, really enjoyed just the the twist and turns and emergency plot twists, as anime wins would say it. So yeah, just that whole fight was amazing. And then we get Yami being captured, and we finally start to see everyone's maturity. I think once Yami gets captured and everyone's kind of sullen, I started to notice that Gray as a character changed. Gray stopped being so flustered all the time. Yeah, she's still a little flustered. Like, she wanted Ghosh to be all good because, how Ghosh had helped her out in her backstory, which is super cool. Um, I heard about Gray's backstory a little bit, and when I first listened to Rustage's Black Bull's rap cipher, I her Hala CG in Gray's verse referenced Cinderella's story, and I was like, okay, that's kind of interesting. And then it literally was almost exactly a Cinderella story. So I got mixed feelings about that part. However, the fact that Gray was running away and Ghost saved her, and what Ghost had told her as she was running away, that was just so cool. That was I just really, really like that aspect, and we're really starting to see Gray more as an actual character. She became an arcane level wizard, and out of all the people in the Black Bulls, the one you least expected as an arcane level wizard was Gray. Like, that's fantastic, and it's hinted that she has maybe some type of other magic, like transformation magic isn't her source magic, which is really fascinating. And I'm kind of curious what it is. So I'm going to have to keep that in mind. I'm curious if she's related to someone because we don't know who her father is. We just know her mother and sisters. And that might have even been stepmother and stepsister. So I might have to look back and see about that. But yeah, Gray's turning into a lot more interesting of a character. And that's what I really, really enjoy about Black Clover. Couple aspects. First aspect, they're really diving into the side characters, and each side character has their own kind of quirk. And in a way, they kind of have their own, mental health issues. And I stated this in my last kind of rambling video about Black Clover. where each character has their own kind of mental issues. And I still think that I want to make a video just based off of the mental aspects of each character, or at least in the Black Bulls. So that's still something that I'm probably going to do because I'm that's something that I could talk for days about just passionately how Black Clover handles mental illness, I suppose. So, yeah, we're going into this final part and Noct shows up. And Noct is the actual vice captain of the Black Bulls, which is the way that it's presented is actually really quite fascinating because no one in the entire series up to now asks why does the Black Bulls not have a vice captain? No one it's never brought up at all. And so you think that this is kind of just like thrown in there, but in a way it really isn't. And the way it's set up is fantastic. He was a vice captain because Yami told him that he was the vice captain, and he doesn't want to be around Yami. He doesn't want to be around everyone, and so he instead he becomes a spy for the Spade Kingdom. Well, no, he becomes a spy infiltrating the Spade Kingdom. To clarify, not he doesn't spy for for the Spade. He spies for Clover. So just super fascinating character, and what he's doing in the manga right now is also really quite fantastic, but I'm not going to give any manga spoilers. Just say that Noct becomes a very interesting character. So, yeah, I think when the final episode, the reason why I think it is so good, and I know it's taken me like 7 minutes to kind of talk about this final episode itself. The reason why I think it is just fantastic is that it really sets up the next part, and it really it starts off with Lieb's backstory a little bit, and we get to see Lisita, and I had this discussion on Twitter where I was like, okay, I thought Lisita was like hinted at that she was Asta's mother, but it wasn't direct. It wasn't directly stated. In the anime, they just said, "Screw it, she's Asa's mother," and I really like the connection that Lieb made because he made the connection that I made in the manga, which is like they both have the same mannerisms, and they even included the scene where Lieb leaves Asta in front of the church and then runs off, and then she goes and says, "I'm not leaving anyone ever again," and that just hits hard. I, I appreciate that, and I've still got some theories about Asa's father. Like, I think that he might even be a dwarf, or Asa has some dwarf blood in him, kind of like Charmy, because the dwarves is a race that's not mentioned at all. And who knows? Maybe that'll be the next arc after like the Spade Kingdom arc. Who knows? That might be interesting because there's still a little bit of mystery there of like Charmy's backstory is non-existent at all. We don't know anything about Charmy's backstory. Now that I think about it, yeah, I don't think there's anything besides the fact that she's part dwarf. She's a hybrid. And that's it. So, I mean, my kind of headcanon is that she's slightly related to Asta in some form or fashion. However, maybe not. I don't know. Anyways, back to the final episode. So, the entire first half of the episode was just Lieb's backstory. And I thought it was really illustrated very well. It was really shown how Lieb became the devil that he is, how he has developed such a hatred for all the other devils because of how he was living. And it was kind of fascinating how he was thrown through the wall because he had no magic. So it's kind of like that wall is just a magical barrier and not an actual physical barrier, which is interesting. So I'm guessing that at some point Asta is going to be going through that as well because Asta does not have any magic whatsoever, any mana. And at one point during the episode, okay, just to backtrack, uh, the reason why Lieb and Asa are fighting is because they're trying to perform this ritual for Noct. And it's like a demon possessing or demon binding ritual. It's a contract. And Asa has to beat uh Lieb in order to form a pact. That's what Noct says. And I think this whole ritual thing was a setup by Noct. I think from the very beginning, you're not supposed to try and be master slave to the demon. You're supposed to form like a friendship contract. But the way Noct set it up was to try and kind of subtly push Asta into that. And so just really, really, I think fantastic storytelling at that point because Noct made it look like that Asta, had to put dominance over Leap. That's kind of the what they were pretty much showing is that it's like one's got to show dominance over the other in order to take control. And Asta, being the mad lad Chad that he is, was like, "Nah, fam, I'm going to be friends with Leap. I see that you don't want to kill me. I see that. You're not trying to kill me." And regardless, they still fight. And he brought something up. He was like, I fought against and with all these fantastic swordsmen in my day. And then it really starts showing different swordsmen next to him. Even it showed Mars from like the second arc for it's like even the it's the second arc. And I've never really considered Mars as like a swordsman, though he did technically wield a giant sword that he swung at, you know, that Asta broke when he first got, there. So, and it showed all sorts of other swordsmen, some swordsmen that we only saw a couple times, like his teacher, which, that's also really cool, the red haired guy and who I kept thinking was related to Zora at some point. Like the fact that they're not related sometimes baffles me because I always thought that like that was his father. Anyways, the whole what can I say? The whole fight was just fantastically animated between Yasta and Lieb. And the second that they started playing the first theme, oh, the first opening theme. It was so fantastic. I was just on my seat, on the edge of my seat, just hyped out because that entire fight was so cool. I liked how Lee he had taken all three of like the demon swords and was practically chucking them at Asta. And it wasn't in a way where he would do one at a time. No, all three of them at the same time were constantly attacking Asta, and it was so beautifully animated. It felt that was probably one of the most realistic sword fights I have seen in anime when it comes to multiple weapons because of just the amount of use each sword was had. One of them was being used like a buzzsaw and it was just rapidly spinning, trying to saw Asa in half, while the other ones were just attacking him from the sides. Like, just that was so cool. And Asa wielding Yami's katana, which in itself is fantastic, is that's just so amazing that he was wielding Yami's katana, but he by wielding it, he was able to block all of these attacks and still go after Leap. And, you know, eventually with when he was saying that I've trained with all of these swordsmen. I've been with every single one of them. He finally goes up to Lieb and he puts the sword under his chin, like uh in victory, saying like, "There it is, I won. I could have killed you, but I didn't." And then Noct does the whole chain things to bind Lieb, and Us is like, "Nah, fam, we're not gonna do this shit. We're just gonna be friends. We're gonna be pals. I see that you want a friend." And Lieb's like, "What is friend? What is this word?" And it's it just really goes to show Asta's character. And then, the whole episode ends with how everyone else is starting to set up. We have uh we have Noel and Sekre was training with the elves. And that whole we had a whole great moment with Sekre talking to I think that was Patri. I get Patri and Licht mixed up, so feel free to edit or to fact check me on that one. But I think that one's Patri, and uh he was she was like, "Oh, that's right. The queen was going to give birth to twins, and one of them died, and the one that died went into However, one of them was still alive, and so she put it into that time capsule thing, which kept the queen alive, and then they were able to build that community. So that's so fantastic. And of course, the mother would have died because she's human. However, her offspring would have been elves. So that's really fascinating. Well, they wouldn't be elves, so it'd be more like half elves. But that actually is kind of interesting. I wonder how the elven race continued on, because you would just have mother and son, and then it just becomes some hentai stuff there. Now that I think about it, yeah. Anyways, uh, just overall, I just love this series, and I hear that they're gonna make a movie, and so I am super excited for that. That may be like the first anime movie that I will actually watch. Like watch when it comes out, watch when it releases. Like I haven't even watched the Made in Abyss movie that I'm wanting to watch. And if you're seen anything about my channel, you'd know that I'm making a series based off of the Made in Abyss manga, where I go through and talk about each manga. So yeah, I think that's going to be it for this video. I've rambled on quite a lot. And so, yeah, just thank you everyone for checking this out. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.